Hello and welcome back to another video here on the Mattov FM channel, where in today's episode it is time for the 2025-26 Premier League predictions. Now, I did make this video this time last year before the season came out. I made a few changes and put that into the Discord. Make sure to go and join that down below, the top link in the description. And then at the end of that season I went and did a reaction video. Let's just say there was a few interesting picks in there, some quite good picks in the end, but also some very interesting picks. But in today's video we're going to go over these predictions and see what we're thinking, what it's looking like. I mean, on first glance, there's still obviously some of the summer left to go for some signings and stuff like that, but it's looking like a bit of an interesting season. I think there's a standout potential champion. I think there's kind of a bit of a gap between those teams, and then I'm not sure. It's a very, very interesting one. It was kind of a hard one to pick, really, because I feel like the mid-table is going to be quite an interesting season for those involved in and around that area, and it'll be interesting to see what they go on and do. But the teams involved this season looking really, really good, and hopefully it turns out to be a good season. So we're going to start down in the relegation spots at number 20. I've gone for Burnley as the team to be at the bottom. I mean, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing having Burnley in the Premier League if they're not going to turn up? I would like to think they can go and turn up, but you know, recent times in the Premier League have just shown they don't have it. You know, the star power is not there. They have no Vincent Kompany, who's obviously not been there for the season. They might have Scott Parker now, I believe it is. But, you know, I think the best chance they had was when they had the likes of Vincent Kompany and co at the club. They have a quite talented squad, I would say, but I just don't think it's enough. And they were the pretty obvious team to put down in last place. I put Leeds United at 19th. Obviously have finally got back into the Premier League because off the back of that disappointment in the playoff final just a year ago, but they did manage to get back up. I mean, they had a very rocky season, in all honesty, and I don't see how that's going to improve in the Premier League. I've not seen much activity from them in this summer, but it'll be interesting to see if they can go and have a competitive campaign, but I just don't think they're at that level yet to go and just get themselves in the Premier League. You know, I think they had a good few seasons a few years back, but just not going to be the season yet where they will go and re-establish themselves in the Premier League. So putting them in at 19th. I've gone with Wolves at 18th. I think I said last year they would get relegated. I predicted them to be relegated. I think this year will finally be the year where that happens. They just don't have the ability anymore, and it's quite sad to see, really, because a few years back they were a really, really good team who were challenging for the high up spots. But you know, with the loss of Cunha, I just think that a lot of the team was kind of based around him. They do have some other good players in there, but I just don't think it's going to be enough, and they are the final team I predict to be relegated. So that leaves us with 17 more teams to stay up in the Premier League for the 26-27 season. One of those, I believe, will be Sunderland, who I have put in at 17th place. I think they will do it. I really do. I think they're making some interesting signings. I think they're a team who will be really determined to stay back up in the Premier League off the back of what was, you know, a horrible few years for them a few years back. Those back-to-back relegations. I think they've got a real good fan base behind them, and you know, just making some really good signings, a good manager behind them. I think it will be an interesting season for them. And you know, these new teams who get promoted up, I kind of term them as new teams. It's a hard one to describe, really, because in recent years we've had kind of a unique team get promoted back to the Premier League, whereas a few years before that it was always kind of similar teams. You know, we had last year Ipswich. I thought they would just stay up, didn't in the end, really. The year before, the Luton had a very good attempt but just missed out on staying up. It went to the very last day. This time, I think Sunderland probably have the best chance out of all the teams that have been up in recent years, and I do think they will stay up probably one of the most surprising picks on here, but I will put Sunderland in at 17th. 16th, I've gone with Brentford. Brentford were obviously one of the teams who stayed up when they got re-promoted after so many years, and have stayed up in what will be their fourth season now. I believe it is fourth in a row, or it might even be the fifth. 22, 23, 24, 25. This is their fifth season now, which is crazy. Obviously did stay up in all those seasons. Last year, pretty good season for them, but I think, with the loss of some key players like Mbeumo, Norgard, and of course Thomas Frank as manager, I think they will have a rough season, but still have enough to stay up in the end in at 16th place. Above them, I've gone for Fulham at 15th. It's quite an interesting pick, really, to put them in at 15th. I think that they could be a little bit higher, especially if we look at this season and how it's gone for them. But I just don't think they'll have that, the convincing element. I think they had a bit of a drop off as well at the end of last season, but maybe quite a long purple patch for them is what caused some high spots in last season. But overall, I think that's a fair result to say that they'll finish in that position. I've gone for Bournemouth at 14th. I think they've got obviously they've lost some of their key players like in Hoyson, but I still think they are very, very capable of doing well. They've got a very good manager in Iraola, a very good squad which will only continue to improve, and I think 14th is a fair position to put them in the end. I've gone for 13th place. Everton, I think, will finish in that position. I think this will be finally the season where they go and recover a little bit. They've had a rough few seasons, but David Moyes at the end of last year was doing a good job. He's a very, very experienced manager, and he'll know what to do to get this team out of the position that they have been in. A very good squad that will be prepared to fight for that position in their new stadium, of course, and I think 13th will be a good finish for them should they go on and get it. Number 12, if we go to the next team, the higher mid-table is what we're calling this one. We're going for Crystal Palace in at number 12. Bit of an interesting one to put them in at number 12. Some people might say they would go lower, but I think they are really building a good project there, and I think they might have to tolerate some extra games with their Conference League, or if it might be Europa League, probably not, but nonetheless European football, they will have to tolerate some extra games. But Glasner has managed teams like this before, who, for example, like Eintracht Frankfurt, who may not have gone deep into European competition before. He got them all the way to winning the Europa League, a team who may not have been used to that type of achievement. He'll know how to manage this team, and with the squad that he has, I think it's very, very possible that they will go on and do well and finish in 12th place, which is not the worst finish if, that is, they go on and have a good European campaign, because if it is in the Conference League that they're in, I think a good finish could be on the cards for him. Maybe a quarter-final, potentially a semi-final. Who knows what will happen, but 12th place for Crystal Palace. A very, very fair decision in the end. In at number 11, I've gone for West Ham. I think a lot of people forget how good of a team West Ham actually are. I think they are really quite a big club. A lot of them like to say they are a massive club, and I think it's a fair enough argument to an extent. I think 11th place, some of the fans will be happy with, considering they've had a rough few seasons. I think they've got a very, very capable squad, but it's just not clicking at the moment. But Graham Potter, as the manager, he knows how to build these teams, and I think you've got to have a bit of time with him. He came in the middle of the season, and if we give him the time and the kind of patience, I think he will go and get a decent enough finish and get in at number 11. In at number 10, I've gone for Forest. I think Forest had a very good season last, but will that last going into the next one? I'm not too sure. They will have obviously the factor that Crystal Palace do of European football. And I must say, by the way, I did predict Crystal Palace to finish 7th last year and get the Conference League. They got the Conference League but didn't finish 7th, so I guess you could kind of see where I was going with that. 7th place, but instead they got a trophy. I knew what I was going on about, and I think I knew what I was doing here. But yeah, Forest in at number 10. I think with European football, they're an inexperienced squad to that sort of thing, and I think they'll need the time to get experience to the workload. I think they could go on and have a good European campaign, but in 10th place I think is a fair decision in the end. Not as good as last year, but still a good result nonetheless. Now it gets interesting. In at number 9, I've gone for Manchester United. I don't know what to say with this team. I really, really don't. They've made some good signings. Obviously bringing in Mbeumo, Cunha, adding to their attack, which is potentially, I would say it's the area they probably need to strengthen the most, maybe a bit more in the defense. I don't know. I say that, and then I go straight to the midfield as well. They need to improve. This Man United team is fractured, definitely fractured, and it's definitely not down to the manager. Could it be down to the players? I mean, you've got to look after so long at some of the players and think that it could be down to them, but it just seems like the club is deeply rooted with some issues, and I don't see how that's going to recover anytime soon. 9th place is probably a very, very lenient result, I would say, for them. They could even go lower than that. Who knows? You can't really tell with these teams, and I think 9th place is it can't be argued against, really. Not much higher, potentially lower. Who knows what will happen with Manchester United. In at number 8, the final spot here in this section, I've gone for Tottenham. Tottenham, I think, will have a bit of a better season last year. I think it's not acceptable, but I think it was understandable why they had such a poor Premier League season. You know, there was an emphasis on the kind of Europa League, and obviously that worked out for them. And now they're playing in some Champions League football. Obviously, they'll have to get reused to playing at such a high level. They'll want to be fielding their best teams. Obviously, bringing in a new manager, I don't know if it's the right decision. I think Thomas Frank and Ange were similar kind of managers, not necessarily in their kind of playing style, but in terms of their kind of this manager who is a bit of an underground manager, I'd like to describe him. You've not had the most experience at a very, very high level, but I've still had some experience. I think Frank is a good manager to bring in as a replacement. They could have maybe gone for someone a bit more experienced, but I think he will do alright. 8th place, not a bad finish at all, a lot better than last year, and that's where I see them finishing in the end. Now it's time for the spots where it gets a little bit more interesting. At number 7, in 7th place, I've gone for Brighton. I think Brighton had a very interesting season last. They had a really, really good start, dropped off a little bit, and then climbed back up again. Herzler, 31 years of age, really redefining how old you have to be a manager. I think they've got a very, very capable squad who can go on to achieve some good things. I think they've lost some key players in this summer, but it won't affect them too much. I think they can go and build a squad. Their recruitment there is obviously amazing, and 7th place would be a very good finish for them to go and get back into the Conference League. We've got to remember this team was playing in Europa League a few years ago, it's crazy to think really that they were in the Europa League and managed to finish as high as they did, but at the same time it really isn't. They are a very, very, very capable side who have done so well in the past few years, and we talk about a lot of other teams, how well they've done to go and build, but not enough credit probably goes to Brighton for how well they've done from getting to the Championship all the way up into the spots. They are now very, very impressive stuff from them, and 7th place would be a good finish. I've gone for number 6, Aston Villa, playing some Europa League football this year, if I'm not mistaken. They just missed out on the last day. I said in the last predictions, I think we will have seen that as well, that if they got if they did well in the Champions League, got to a quarter final, I said they would, and then went and finished in 6th place, I think they could be happy with that. They got a quarter final in the Champions League, and also I think they finished 6th place. They would have, yeah, because 5th place would have gone to the Champions League. So they got exactly what I said they would: 6th place and quarter final in the Champions League. They can be happy with that. I think being in the Europa League, Unai, I think, could win it for them. I really, really do. They'll have a really good go at trying to win it for them. And 6th place as well. They're starting to gain that experience in having to manage both the two sets of competitions, because it is a very key factor. You know, as I mentioned it a lot in this video, but if you take a look at how it affected Tottenham last season, it is a very important factor, and I think they could go on and have a good European campaign, but they've got to also manage how they do. Hopefully a bit more of an improved season in the Premier League, and I think 6th place is a very fair result for them in the end. On to the next section with the Champions League spots. At number 5, I've gone for Newcastle to finish in 5th place in the same spot as they did last year, back in the Champions League, which is obviously a very good result for them. It's been an interesting summer for them, but I do think that with the experience they've already had playing in the Champions League, a very, very capable squad who will go on and really want to do well in that Champions League. But at the same time, I do think that they can have another good Premier League season. They're becoming one of the real good teams in this Premier League in the last few years. Really done well since the takeover, and I do think another 5th place finish is on the cards for Newcastle in this season. Number 4 in 4th place, I've gone for Chelsea. Chelsea are finally making that comeback, and it is quite nice to see. If I am honest, they were obviously a team who did very well a few years back. They're a club who've won many trophies in the past, and I think, you know, their summer absolutely incredible for them. I don't see why they can't go on and finish in 4th place. They're clearly recovering as a team. Enzo has got it all under control there at the club, and I don't see why they get anything less than 4th place. I don't think they're a team to be joked around with anymore. I think we need to give that to the likes of Man United and Tottenham, because when Chelsea were doing as poor as they were a few years back, and it was really bad, to be honest, considering they were a Champions League winning team just a few years back. Now the roles have reversed, and it is Man United who find themselves in that position a few positions down compared to Chelsea. It's a completely different story, and I think it will be Chelsea who finish in 4th place in this season. In at 3rd place, I've gone for Arsenal. I don't know about Arsenal. I really don't. Obviously made some very good signings in this summer, but I just don't know. I think the thing with Arsenal is they treat every match, I think it's the mentality, I really do. They treat every match as if it's like do or die. And, you know, I don't see particularly an issue with that, but if you compare it to a team like Man City, they don't treat every game like this. It's I don't want to say they kind of dumb it down a little bit, the reality of the game, but they kind of do. They don't take it as serious. It's because the players have probably more experience being in those positions. And don't get me wrong, Arsenal are starting to gain that experience, but we saw it in particular last season. You know, beating Real Madrid in the way that they did, it was like the dark arts was fully out in force, and then all for it to just collapse against. Don't get me wrong, PSG, but come on, if you're beating Real Madrid, you should be able to beat PSG. Really, I don't know. I think 3rd place is the position for them in the end. I don't see how they're going to have a good go. I think they can have a title race, but I don't see how they'll have a real good shot at it. And if they'll get their hands on the trophy, I really don't think so. So 3rd place is what I say for Arsenal. In the end, it's down to the final 2 teams. I've gone for, in 2nd place, Manchester City. I think they're going to finish in 2nd. I think they'll have a marked improvement compared to last season. Probably going to have a bit more of a better Champions League campaign, and in the Premier League as well. I think Pep will know what to do the summer off to just reflect on what has happened for this season. And you know, they've got a very capable team still. They've made some very good signings, particularly early on in the summer, and I think they've got a team who will be ready to go on and have a good campaign. But it won't be enough to beat the champions, the reigning champions, and still the champions, I believe, by the end of next season. Liverpool, I believe, will win the Premier League once again. Obviously a very good season last year out. I think they'll go and have a really good campaign in the Champions League, where obviously they were met with the eventual champions in PSG. I think they'll go and have a much better campaign there. I think Liverpool know what they're doing when balancing these games. I don't think it affects them too much. And Arne Slot is a very good manager. He knows what he's doing in managing that squad. Obviously it will be tough for them off the back of the absolute tragedy that happened with Diogo Jota and his brother. It was it was a massive tragedy, and it will have affected the club. But I think the spirit of that and the spirit of the fans behind them will carry them through into a position to defend their title. And they might be the team to beat for the next few years in the Premier League. So there you have it. There are my Premier League predictions for this season. Obviously, we will be back at the end of the season, hopefully, to reflect on these predictions. Hopefully, they go right. Make sure to go and leave your predictions down below in the comments. Make sure to go and join the Discord where we can be discussing those. Also, my Fantasy Premier League is live now. You can go and join that. That will be in the description down below. And also, once again, join the Discord for that, where we'll be discussing in there. But thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll leave you with this little tune, and I'll see you all for another video. Thank you, bye bye.